Good morning, everybody. This is Stacy Turner with our DMOpro Zoom. Happy Monday morning. So glad you're here. And I was just telling some of the ladies how thankful I am that you guys show up. It would be really boring if I was on Zoom by myself. So I'm glad we're here to learn together and going to conference. Who's going to conference? Yeah. It's going to be so fun. Something we learned this last week on the NMD Zoom for leadership is that the next conference is not going to be open to everyone. So I don't know if you guys heard that. It's QSSC and above. So I guess it is open to everyone. The goal is to get to QSSC, right? So that you can go. It is open to everyone. We need to change our thought process on that. But I'm kind of excited about that. They used to do a NMD boot camp, and I went to it a couple of times years ago, and it was so helpful, sort of like Q School. If any of you have gone to Q School before, where it's just a lot more focused on leadership training. Versus speaking to the new person in the room. So I think it's going to be really beneficial to our leadership within our company. And then we're going to be able to trickle that down to everyone else. But really, we want you all there. So let's get to QSSC so that you can go with us. And if you look at the structure, it's not that difficult. Like, it's not like you have to have, to NMD is 5 sales coordinator lines, right? But to to QSSC, I think it's 1 sales coordinator line, and you have to have a couple of QSCs on. So it's definitely doable. Definitely set your mind to it. Let's get you there so that you can come in the spring to the next conference, because you don't want to miss out. So speaking of conference, walking into conference week, I don't know about you guys, but last night, early this morning, I woke up, and as soon as I start waking up, all the things start going through my mind of like, what has to happen? What do I need to get done to be able to go to conference? It's so much easier now that the kids are older, but man, was that a crazy time when the kids were little and having to do childcare and who's picking up for who for school and all of that. So those of you with littles, I totally applaud you for coming. I know it seems like, is this worth it? And I promise it is. And all the rest of us that are investing and going, and it really is an investment in ourselves and in our team and in your future team. So last night I did another sourdough class. You guys can probably see some of those pictures on Facebook, and we had 16 people that came, and I had capped it at 12, and then 4 more people paid. And so I was like, well, we'll just fit them in. And so we had a whole house full, and it was just so fun. And I just thought, you know what? It's like good people, good conversation, doing good things together, making good bread. It was just a lot of fun, and I got some great feedback on it. And the first class I did, it was a lot of people I already knew that were coming to the class. And I thought, I don't know if this is going to be really that beneficial to business if it's always just like my customers and team that come to the classes, like I'm speaking to the same. And I wasn't super strong on the Juice Plus side of things. But this class, there were new people, and only like 2 or 3 team members, and the rest were not even customers. They were had never heard about Juice Plus. So I was like, I am going to make sure that I really talk well about it and give a much stronger recommendation. And so using some of the tools and resources that we have through boards, and that Michaela Peterson and Doug Farrar have pulled together, it was really good. And the conversation went well. And after they made their bread, then we let it set, and then I did sort of the presentation, and then we came back in, and they tugged it after it had rested for a minute. So that was kind of like a reason to do it versus doing it at the beginning and everyone just wants to make bread. That's what I did the first time. So this time we just jumped right into bread, and I said, we're going to explain the reason behind all of this, but we need to get it to the point where it's resting, and then we'll talk, and then we'll come back and tuck it the last time. So the conversation went well. And there were 3 ladies there that were newer to the area. And so don't underestimate the new people that are moving to your town or your place, because they need community. They're looking for that. And when I found out that they were new, I was just like, oh, excellent. I want you to come. I want to introduce you to some of my other friends, and like, I'll get you connected. I've got a great network of people. And so it was just fun. They all stayed afterwards. Like nobody left right away. Everyone was standing around. We were eating bread, but we were done with all that. And I was like, okay, you guys are ready. We're finished. You're ready. And everyone just stayed and kept talking, and people were ordering Juice Plus. And, it's just like, sometimes that works. And sometimes you do a presentation and, nobody comes. But I will say I only had one person RSVP and paid that didn't show up. So that's kind of almost 100% like show up rate. That never happens. And my girls were there. They were helping me with the class, and they were excited about it. And like, okay, I want to do a sourdough class. Like I could do this. And I feel like I could invite to it. And they both said they really liked the information that was shared, and they learned something new, but they were like, it's really attractive to come. So if you guys haven't started doing sourdough, there's no perfect time. There's no perfect way. And I probably go way above and beyond even what I need to. But to me, the presentation of it, like how it looks in the room and what they get, like that matters to me. And so I like to all match all the things. You can see it on my wall, but it just was fun. And I just got a lot of really good feedback on that. And it made me start thinking about, we were so excited to get like 3 orders, right? How many hours went into the prep of that, and the conversations and the inviting and the buying the stuff and everything. And Jarrett and I were laughing. I was like, how funny it is that like one order, we're so excited to just get one order. Like we'll do anything to get one order. It doesn't even matter, right? But the point of that is it's one person. Like it's not just an order to us, right? It's one person's life. They've got whole health stories and issues, and we get to step into that and help them. And they've got family members. And it kind of goes back to that saying I said before, is it's all the little conversations that don't feel like work that is the work. That is what we do. It is the conversation. It is the event. It's the, when one person comes, or when 16 people come, or whatever that looks like. It's all of that together that makes up our business. It's one customer at a time, and then another customer, and you have a conversation with that customer, and you invite them to your team, and they join in and they get to be a part of that. And then they invite one person to the next event, and then their aunt orders. And then, like it's just snowballs, like this really tiny little snowball starts, and it's just one little person at a time. And don't underestimate that, because when you have a team that's also doing just one at a time, all of that adds up, right? That's where the volume comes in to get to the next promotion. You've got to have the structure, but you have to have the volume too. And so everyone counts, every activity counts, every conversation. We'll do anything to get a new customer, but how much will we do to keep a customer? Think about that. It's not like once you get the customer, that's it, and you're done and you move on. Like we want to keep them. We want to keep them engaged and taking their product and having a good experience, and always inviting them to the team. And I was just telling the girls too, like, don't underestimate, just ask them, tell them about the business side of it, bring it into the conversation and invite them in. At least they know about it. Even if it's not the right timing for them, you've still planted that seed. You don't know when the right timing is, and you don't ever want them to come back and say, well, why didn't you tell me that? Like, I didn't know I could have joined in for $22 and gotten $90 worth of products and $100 for a title reward, plus $168 for the order she placed last night. I was like, who are we to keep that from her? And who knows that she's not going to then have other people we don't know, and she shares with them, and it just builds. I said, small thinking is, I want to keep this sales profit. That's $164. Like, I'll keep that and just not make her a team member. I said, but we've got to think much bigger. If we're looking at this long-term, you want a team of people to do this with you. It's not just the customer base alone. And so I was just really encouraging them to invite, like, just say it. And you can say, well, because she said, well, we'll just wait until she has an experience 4 months later. And I was like, no, we don't do that way. We always invite. I said, when are they the most excited? They are most excited when they're giving you their credit card, when they're ordering, they're ready to make a move, they're moving, they're making a purchase. Like, that's when you invite them in, whether they say yes or not. And then you're going to give them information and keep that conversation going. But like, no, we don't wait. That's not how I do business. So I just want to encourage you guys with that too. So thinking about going into conference, we can go to conference and we can sit in here in the information. What I want to encourage you guys to think about is, what are we going to do after conference? So what events do you have set up? Because there's going to be people that come to your mind when you're at conference of, oh yeah, I need to tell them, or you're going to hear somebody else's story that brings that person to mind, or that you think about them again, or somebody you've already shared with that you need to follow back up with. So do you have 2 events? I say at least 2 events already planned that you can start inviting to. You're going to be traveling. Most of us, right, aren't driving, or even if you are, maybe somebody else is driving. It's a great time to invite people to something. When you're sitting in the airport, you can get a lot done. You can make lists when you're on the airplane. Take advantage of the time of you're just kind of not distracted by laundry and the things of the house and kids, and be prepared so that we don't just soak up information and then do nothing with it. Because what's the point of going to conference if we don't put it into action? Okay, I've seen team members do that. They come to conference time after time after time after time, and they don't do anything with the information. Now, it's a fun getaway, right? Like with all of us, and you get to come and have a great weekend with good people, good conversation. It's encouraging, and that's fine. If that's what you're wanting, that's what you're looking for, dive into that. I think is what we all want to. But I'm there, I'm investing in a business. I'm spending money to get there, a plane ticket, the hotels, the food, encouraging my team, helping them out financially to get there. Like, I'm investing a lot in that. I'm there for it. I'm not going to be having conversations with someone while the speaker's talking. I'm going to be tuned in. I want to know and learn so I can take that to my team. I've got team that's here that's not going. I owe it to them to learn the information, take down notes, and then transfer that to them. So what's that going to look like? When you come back, you want to have 2 events for your customers, right? Or prospects that you're inviting those to. But what about your team? Do you have a local team that you could do an event and you just take the information you learn and then bring it to them? Even if it's just over coffee and you're sharing notes and you've got other people that came, or even if it's just you. I used to come up with this like whole PowerPoint. I learned PowerPoint like to be able to do this when the kids were little. I mean, we're talking years ago. I rented a little room at a hotel, like a conference room. I would invite my team and I would do a presentation for them of like what I learned at conference. There's people that do wrap-up events where they'll do that. A lot of times Kurt Beavers will do that one. Other people on your team, leaders, will probably do that, and you can invite your team to do that. But I encourage you, with your local team that's there, gather them around. Maybe it's your customers and you're like, I just want to share what we learned at conference, some updates about the product and the research. I don't know exactly what we're going to learn, right? But you're going to learn things and you can take that information. Don't just be a sponge. You want to then pour out to other people. Be a sponge at conference. Yes, we want to soak it all in, right? But then we want to come back and we want to give back. It's not about what we learn just for ourselves. And I promise you, the teacher's the one that learns the most. As you take that information, you transfer it to somebody else. It's going to sink in. You're going to process it in a different way. You're going to want to really apply it because you don't want to be hypocritical, right? You're teaching this, so you're like, oh, we better do it. All of that really counts. It's all of those little things. So 2 events for customers and prospects, maybe a luncheon and a coffee. That's what we've got set up. And then something where you're going to gather your team together. Maybe it's just you guys go out for appetizers. Maybe you invite everybody over for dinner, whatever that looks like. You want to be sure to transfer that information to them. Also think about your team that's not going, that is engaged with you. Okay. So you may have some team members, they're not able to come this time, but they're like, man, I hate that I'm missing this. And I really wanted to be able to come. So you could have a Voxer group just for those people, or even a text group of 3 or 4 of them that you just send like screenshots from the TV, or I mean, from the screen, or like something that really stands out to you. Could type out a message to them, something like pictures of you with friends. It's not like, hey, we're missing you, look what you're missing out on this fun, but it's being inclusive to them so that they feel a part of it, and they're going to want to come to the next one, but they're learning as you go. Always ask them first, do you want to be in a chat that way? A text group, I mean, if you're doing it in text, be considerate, right? Like you don't want to be sending them something every 10 minutes. You're going to drive them and their families crazy, but you could do even a couple of texts a day, or each session, to where you're like, oh my gosh, they just said this is awesome. As long as it's not too distracting for you, that's a way to help them feel included and a part of what you're doing. I wouldn't worry about like people that just are disengaged. They can come along at some point and they'll get it sort of like in the bigger picture, maybe in your Facebook group, if other people are putting stuff in there, your team Facebook group, and definitely invite them to a wrap up to hear the like basic points. But I would say those that are engaged, just not able to go, some sort of plan to get some information to them to keep the excitement up for them and to include them in what you're doing, I think is really helpful. If you've ever had somebody do that for you at an event you weren't able to go to, you're like, oh, they're thinking of me. That's so kind that they're, taking the time to do that. And I do wish I was there. Like, dang it, I'm going to make sure I go the next time. I don't want to miss out on the fun. And so that's really what we're wanting to show them. I would love to hear from you guys. What are some things over the years that you have learned either at conference to apply what we learn, or to transfer sort of that excitement? Is there anything that you guys have been a part of in the years past that you'd like to share? Remember, you're unmuted. Yes.
So something I always do at conferences, I always have a notebook because I'm always taking a ton of notes, and I actually bring a separate one because I take a lot of notes. Towards the back, I keep like the last 2 sheets of paper because I think of people, I think of ideas, of things I want to do. So I jot down like an action list as conference is happening. Makes such a huge difference. And then going back and just putting that into action has been really helpful. And thanks for reminding me of the post-conference wrap-ups, because we used to do that all the time. And I'm super excited to reignite that again.
Yes, I love having a notebook that you take notes in, that is just that conference, or for all conferences. I had that too, and you can go back and look at those, and it still applies. Like stuff 15 years ago, it really hasn't changed. Like the basic principles of our business and like peopling hasn't changed that much. And so I think that that's encouraging. Taking notes, you can think you're going to remember it all. You're not going to remember it all. You want to take notes. And some people are like, no, it's too distracting if I'm taking notes. I promise you, you're going to get more out. There's something that happens just hearing it and then also hearing and writing it down. It's a transfer of information in a different way. And then you're able to transfer that to somebody else. So great point of taking notes. I love having my DMO planner with me. So at the back, when you've got the sheets that say people that I want to help, as you're thinking of people as they come into mind, put them in that part, because then they're already going to be in your list, right? Or for this week, you can put them in the new conversations. You can put their names in there, and then just be intentional of starting that conversation with them. So again, about being intentional, I think is important. What do you have to say, Miss Patty? You're muted, love.
Debbie Smith has her hand up, so I want her to go first, and I'll go right after her.
Okay, perfect. Debbie?
Thanks, Patty. In case I'm bobbing around, I'm on a freeway, so I feel like so don't get nauseous. One of the things Jeff Roberta used to always tell us, yes, number 1, take notes like you've mentioned, but then he said on the way home, go over all your notes and highlight your top 3, and then choose one that you're going to put into action. And that's always helped because it always seems so overwhelming. And so he whittled it down to 3 and then 1. So.
Yes. And I usually do 3 on each page of notes and then star the one that's the most important of those 3 on the page. And then I take the stars and kind of narrow those down. And then, because sometimes it's like, how do I just pick one? So if I've got 5 things that I can work on, then I would put those in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which ones are the most important? Like, what do I want to implement right now? So that's a great reminder. Just take the notes and then, some sort of system to process those on your way back. That's excellent. Thank you so much, Debbie. Go ahead, Patty.
A couple of things I want to reiterate what Michelle had to say. I think if we know who's not going to conference and we reach out to our upline and find out when the wrap up's going to be, and start inviting, start pumping them up, start getting them really excited about that. Make sure they have it on their calendar. And then I wanted to go back to your sourdough events. I actually have a sourdough event weekly until the holidays. I have one, not going to do one Thanksgiving and one Christmas. And I have to tell you, most of you guys know, but I live in a town less than 800 people. And I've been in the business a long time. So I've kind of saturated all the salad in the jars and I've invited everybody. I have my sourdough events. People are paying me, like they can't pay me fast enough. I have people booking already 3-4 months or 3-4 weeks away. And I'm attracting people that I've never attracted. I've lived in my little town for 21 years. I've attracted people I don't know. They're inviting their friends because they want to do it together. It has been a whole game changer for me. So I encourage you, if you haven't done it, is to check it out. Like Stacy said on the on boards, it's a game changer. And to me, it's one of those small things, or what we call small ball. Do something that you're not used to. Do something small. And this is, it turns out pretty big. But once you've learned how to do it, you start getting the system down, and they're pretty darn easy and fun.
Yes, they are fun. Talk a little bit more, Patty, about small ball. We were talking about that. We kind of mentioned it, but what's that mean to you?
Well, it's funny because, as long as I've been in the business almost, I've heard about small ball. And so when you and I were talking about it, it's like I had to go and look what it is. And it's basically from baseball or a basketball. And it's doing the small things that you might not think are important. In baseball, it's like the base runs or the stolen bases, as they were talking about that. But for me, you started off on how important our customer care is. To me, that's a small ball. It's, texting somebody while you're at the airport. That's another small ball. You might not think it's making a difference, but showing your excitement. So it's all those little things that you do that they're not big events. They're not going to conference, but those small things keep you in the business and keep things moving. So that's my thoughts on small ball.
Yeah. Texting a customer, planning an event, following up with someone you've shared with, just checking in with someone, texting a team member that you haven't heard back from for a while, seeing how they're doing. It's all the little things that add up. It's all the little conversations that don't feel like work that is the work. The sourdough party is kind of, it's work. By the end, I was like, oh my goodness, that's a long day. But it's a lot of the little conversations all the time that makes it up, and don't dismiss those. So that's such a great reminder, Patty. Anyone else want to share conference tips, things you've learned? Teresa, you want to say something?
Yes, Stacey, thanks for this. One of the things what you're talking about with the sourdough events is, so I did what you did as well. I did my first one and then went, this isn't working, and switch the order like you do. So I make the dough first, let it sit, and we talk. But even still, most people that are coming, and who I've coming are people I've never met before in my neighborhood that heard about it. And so it's wonderful because it's this whole new market, but they're not interested in Juice Plus. They're not thinking. It's not that they're not interested, they're not thinking. And so just to know and plan to follow up. And so, the following up with after the sourdough event is where you're going to get the customers, I think, because a lot of them, they're just running out the door with their bread. They're excited. But as I followed up and send them, there's a follow-up board you can send them, but it has a video on there. So you can say, hey, did you get a chance to watch that video? And I just tried to get on a phone call with each of them. And, when we talked, I asked each of them, what are you, what's something about your health that you're looking to change or improve, or your gut health. So when I call and follow up, I know what they're looking for. And so, I'm calling to say, hey, I heard you say this the other day at the event. And, I wanted to talk to you more about that. So that's just to let people know, if you're doing these events and you're not getting orders that night, that at least for me, the people that are coming aren't coming with that in their mind. So they need time to sort of think about that. So just following up is going to be really important.
Absolutely. And that's so true, Teresa, with any event that we do, right? It's not the end. The event is not the end at the night. It's the follow-up afterwards. The customer is not the end. It's the follow-up afterwards. And I really tied it to gut health. So yes, it's the sourdough class. So if you just jump in with Juice Plus, it's like kind of jumping the shark. Is that what they call it? It's like, where did that come from? But if you're really speaking to gut health of like, why sourdough and what's the difference? And then, what importance does gut health have in our health? And then how I asked, what's the number one thing you think of when I need to do something to improve my gut health? And somebody said probiotics. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what everyone thinks. However, if we don't feed the good bacteria plant food, then it can't thrive, it can't colonize, and you just have to keep taking probiotics. And so then we started, that was a good, segue into why we need plants and how plants work in our bodies and gut health and, what, and all of that. So it flowed really well with the tools and the resources. And I'll share that boards in our Voxer chat, if you guys are in there, so that you can look at that. And if anyone else has a different one that they want to share in those resources, and you just have to start, and you do it not so great the first time, right? Like think about the first time you did an event. I was terrible at it, but you just do it anyway. And my daughter does crochet. Ansley makes the cutest little plushy animals, and she taught herself how to crochet, and she does booths where she sells them. And she made $1,200 this last weekend at a craft show with these little stuffed animal plushies that she made. And we were laughing because she found the very first one. It was an octopus that she made, and it's horrible. It looks so funny. And we laughed about it then, but we were really like, oh my gosh. And she said, I think I'm going to start teaching crochet lessons, but I'm going to tell them, like, look at this first thing that I made. Look how ugly it is. And you just have to keep going. You're not going to be good at it at first. You're going to have to keep going, and you have to keep trying, and you have another conversation. And I said, oh, isn't that like something else that we do? And she's like, it is. And I said, it's just like with Juice Plus, like, you're not going to be great at it, guys. Like, I wish that you could just do the first one. You've got a lot of tools and resources to help you pull it off well, but you're not going to be great at it. And then you just do it again and again. Like, who do you think's great, has an awesome sourdough party? Patty's able to do it every week. Like, she's honed this system down. She's simplified it. She knows what works. She's does it well because she's doing it every week. Practice does make perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but it makes it, doable for sure. You just got to keep going with it. So it's such a great reminder. Renee, you've got your hand raised. Do you want to share something with us? Remember to unmute yourself.
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm not, excuse me, I'm not camera ready, so I have to be blacked out. First of all, Stacey, I just want to say that I've been kind of lost in the network marketing business over the years. Could never really find a rhythm or the kind of training that I really felt like I could align with. And as a result, went to different network marketing group trainings from quote unquote experts, and they were and they are. But your training is by far the best. It's simplified, it's to the point, and you're so thorough with everything. So I just want to thank you so much for having this group. I really appreciate you and the group. And my question is, I've been doing events that's been hosted by a local business. She's got a beautiful store where she sells things for the home. And my presentation is all about vitality. she invites her list of people, of customers, and I'm also out in the community inviting people. And I'm teaching something called heart-brain coherence, how the heart and the brain communicate together. And my health part with Juice Plus and the body has been very weak so far. But I've still gotten people that check the box on they want more Juice Plus information. And what I'm finding is when I text people to follow up, a lot of people just don't get back with me. So I'm wondering if it's because obviously I didn't say enough about Juice Plus and the physical health part, but is anybody else having that issue? And what is the actual system for following up after a presentation? And if people don't respond, how long do you wait before you stop sending? I always feel so awkward about that.
Yeah, that's such a great question, Renee, and thank you for the kind compliments. That was sweet of you. When you're dealing with cold market, remember the follow-up is going to be a lot longer. So I was cold market. I didn't know the lady that shared Juice Plus with me, and it took her, we joke about it, is probably 7 to 9 times of reaching out to me before I was really to have ready to make a decision. But I had a really good conversation with her one-on-one. Then she gave me information and kept following through with that. So, Renee, I don't know if you do project broadcast, but that might be something to look into because you could automate responses to them. So they text a number that you get through project broadcast, and then they text a keyword, and then that signals a series of messages that come to them that would send them a video. You can set it up different ways. It's kind of a steep learning curve at first, but it can really automate that type of thing for you if you have a lot of people coming in, and it keeps them on a list to where when you do the next event, you're able to really tie that back in together. There's some really great trainings out there that do tie like the body health side of things that you're looking at. There's an excellent book called Deadly Emotions. I don't know if you've heard of that, by Don something. That's an excellent book that would talk about, that might be able to kind of bring the mind and the emotions and the body. And he talks about the heart actually sending out chemical responses that affect your brain and all the things. You can tie that into gut health. I think a gut health conversation really would be an easy way to segue, into Juice Plus, and then just be really strong with that. The more strong you talk about it, the more confidence you have, you'll carry on to them. Possibly because you're sharing a lot of information, you feel like when you get to Juice Plus, it's kind of like, oh, I got to hurry because I've used up all this time. So yeah. So you don't want to make it longer than it already is because you're giving such high value information. But what I really walked away with from the first sourdough event that I did was I can tell them about sourdough. I can teach them about sourdough. And I told them this last night. Eating sourdough is not going to change their health. It's a better option. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's a next step in, making a healthier choice. But it's not the impact that Juice Plus had on my family's health. If Jarrett had started eating sourdough bread, it would not have changed his immune system like taking these capsules. So if I just leave you here thinking that, this bread is a healthier bread, or this, heart vitality, whatever message, and information you're sharing with them is going to impact their health, it will, but not to the extent that these capsules are. And who am I to not tell you about this? This is the most important thing. This is, everything. If you have your gut health, if you have your immune health, if you have, it depends on plant nutrients. And to leave you, to let you go and not put the strongest emphasis on this, I would be missing the mark with it. And so I was just a lot stronger in that message this time than I was before. So maybe there's other things you could send them as a resource to talk more about the vitality side, to give you the space within your talk to talk Juice Plus and kind of segue into it through gut health, to where it doesn't feel like you're, jumping way over to this other thing. That's what I would say. Look at your transitions in your talk, and can you find a better bridge to more smoothly tie that in to where you feel like it's an authentic conversation or authentic part of that conversation. And if you can have one-on-one conversations with those people afterwards, so like come up to me and, let's have a conversation, I'll be here for question and answer, then you may find that you have a stronger connecting point at that side of it, to where when you are following up, you have more information to tie back in. So I know you had mentioned this and this in our conversation. I just want to revisit that with you. So kind of going back to the message we had last week of I see you versus let me show you. So how can they really be seen that time? And it may be cutting the content down in your talk to where you're leaving space for them to stay and discuss, versus throwing out too much information at them, but instead sending them pieces afterwards. Does that make sense, Renee? Does that kind of tie into it maybe?
Absolutely, perfectly. Thank you. And my question is, even with just a little bit of Juice Plus information, I had so many people checking the Juice Plus. Any suggestions on how to start those conversations, because it wasn't, so much on the Juice Plus side? You said there was a follow-up boards that you were going to be posting.
I have a sourdough one that I was talked about. I don't know that I specifically have a follow-up one, but let me look in my stuff and see what I'm thinking. I would say this, Renee, make sure your message ends with a question if you want them to respond.
Okay.
So if you send them information and you don't ask a question, there's no reason for them to respond. So your expectation would be they're going to come back and say, oh, yes, I watched the video, I love it, right? But you could ask a question like, here's the information, thanks for coming. Here's the information about Juice Plus. You had checked it, that you wanted some more information on the plant powders. Here's my favorite video. I'm really curious, what's one thing that you learned? So, or some question about their health, what's got you the most curious about plant, or why do you feel like more plants in your diet would help you, or what area? Some question maybe that ties into what your talk was. But if you want a response from them, guys, we've got to ask a question first. End it with a question, because otherwise it's just a message. It's like, how many times do you get messages, just like almost spam messages from people giving you information, but there's no real reason to respond. So I don't respond to them. If they ask me a question, I'm much more likely. Keep it short. If it's long, remember, a lot of times people have Apple Watch now. They see the message, they click it with their hand, and they move on. Okay, I'll do that later. But you could even start with a question. That's what they're going to see first, right? Like that first question is going to come up on their on your phone when you see a message has come in. If it's a question, they're more likely to look at it as well. And then if you want a response from them, end with a question for sure.
Thank you. Can you give an example of a question to start with?
Let's see. So I saw that you are, thank you for coming. I see that you checked the box for more information. Would you like me to send you a video here or email? Something like that.
Okay.
So they're probably going to respond, oh, here is great. So at least you know that they're seeing it, right? If I'm inviting to an event, a follow-up event, and this might be something too, Renee, I don't know if you're doing this, where you have a Juice Plus event after this Vitality one, to where you're inviting all of those people to a very specific Juice Plus event, or like where you're going to be talking like a one simple change presentation. That could be a good reason to tie them back into it. So you could start the conversation with, are you going to be in town Thursday evening? And I will almost always get responses back to that. And then if they say, yes, I am, say, oh, awesome, I'm doing this event. You would mark that you want some more information about the plant powders. I'm going to be doing this one simple change presentation. You could do it on Zoom if you wanted to, or in person, or have two options. They can choose a Zoom or in person, and then they could pick that, and then they would come to that event. So that could be just you're gathering information people at these events, and then you want to take those people and move them on to the next. They, if they came to one presentation, they'll probably come to the next one. But if I start that out, just ask, are you going to be in town Thursday night? I will get so many more responses than if I just send them the information about the event that I'm doing. Like, it's crazy, so much better.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And by the way, I did take the project broadcast class, and I'm one of these people that just got so overwhelmed with it all. So I think that right now I'm just going to kind of build it manually with the text messages, and then eventually when I get more customers, hire somebody to help me put it together.
Yeah. Just keep it simple. Just a keyword that they're going to text, and that way you've got everyone in one group, right? So you could text that same message. Are you going to be in town Thursday night? You send that out, and it goes to, 60 people that have all come to these events that you've done. And then you did it one time versus copy paste 60 times. It's the same thing because it only goes to them, but you're doing it once versus 60. So it's just working smarter, not harder. It does take time, guys, to set up project broadcast, but it is worth it.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Stacey. You're amazing.
You're welcome, Renee.
I have a quick question, and it's going back to the sourdough events. Is the sourdough events, like if you have people that are gluten-free, or do you do with gluten-free flour and stuff like that, or?
So you can buy a gluten-free starter. So is somebody celiac or just gluten intolerant? Because often gluten intolerant can do sourdough because the sourdough fermenting process, the fermenting changes the structure of that protein, the gluten protein. It breaks it down and it's easy digested. And so gluten intolerant are usually fine. And sometimes people aren't necessarily gluten intolerant. They have more of a problem with yeast, and there's no yeast in the bread. But if somebody's got celiac, I would not give them sourdough, but you can buy gluten-free sourdough starters online, and they could start it that way. But I have not ventured into that side of things with them or given both options, but it is a thing. So I would say look up YouTube and or the sourdough Facebook event and see what people are saying in there.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Awesome. Well, great conversation, everybody. We've got a busy couple of days before we head out. If I see you at conference, come by. If you see me, come by. I don't get to see everybody on here. I just see like 3 people's faces. So if you recognize me and I don't recognize you, I'm the problem. You are not the problem. Come up to me, say hello. I've got some I'm a DMOpro stickers to give you guys. Just can't wait to see everyone celebrating. We've been doing good work for the last 6 months. Let's celebrate that together. And again, I appreciate you all joining in with me. It would be very boring to be here by myself. So I thank you very much. And we'll put some of those resources in the box or chat. So thanks, everyone.